Greetings, friends. Let's get acquainted with the German artist Lovis Corinth, whose painting evokes strong emotions, has a powerful energy, affects literary and mythological subjects, dramatic religious ideas, and frank female portraits. The naturalistic paintings of the artist are a fusion of such trends as impressionism and expressionism, captivating the attention of the audience, enticing them into their non-repetitive atmosphere. Who has not subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe. We are waiting for a lot of interesting things. Let's go! Lovis Corinth was born on July 21, 1858 in the city of Tapio, now Gvardeysk, Kaliningrad region of Russia, in the family of Heinrich and Wilhelmina Corinth, who kept a leather workshop and their own farm. He was brought up with 5 other brothers and sisters. The life of little Lovis was made up of contradictions. On the one hand, he lived in a picturesque place opposite a real medieval castle of the Teutonic Order, and on the other hand, this is a daily, direct contact of a child with the death of animals in a slaughterhouse. The father tries in every way to give the boy an appropriate education. An 8-year-old Louis is sent to study painting at the Nico Gymnasium in Königsberg, where he plunges headlong into drawing classes. Initially, Corinth saw himself as a history painter, but he was dissuaded by a genre painter and his teacher at the academy, Otto Gunther. Here Corinth receives an exhaustive knowledge of the myths of ancient Greece and Rome, studies Greek and Latin. Subsequently, the knowledge gained will be reflected in his works on mythological motives. In 1873, after the death of his mother, Corinth returned home, where he had a desire to become an artist, so that his son could study and be able to pay for education at the local art academy. Lovis Corinth's father sold the estate in Tapio and moved with him to Königsberg. At the academy, he was taught the basics of painting by Otto Gunther. Together with Gunther and other students, Corinth traveled to Berlin and Thuringia, where he visited the workshops of Albert Brendel, who led the Weimar School of Art, Friedrich Preller and Karl Buchholz. In his own work, Corinth focused on portraits and landscapes. Fate smiled. "I will be an artist," Corinth will write later. On the advice of his teacher Gunther, in 1880 Corinth entered the Academy of Fine Arts in Munich, which at that time was fighting with Paris for the center of avant-garde art in Europe. There, Corinth joined the movement of naturalism, which at that time opposed classical historical painting. Here he studied for some time with Franz von de Freger, and then with Ludwig von Less. The realism of the early works of Corinth was aided by the teachings of Less, which emphasized the combination of colors and shades. Other important influences on the artist's work were Courbet and the Barbizon School. In 1882 to 1883, Corinth served in the army, and then, before returning to his studies, he made a trip to Italy and to Lake Garda with his father. In 1884, Corinth spent his studies in Antwerp. This is the time of his studies in the Flemish Antwerp become iconic. Although, according to the memoirs, Corinth did not like the city at all. But despite this, in the workshop of local artist Paul Eugene Gorge, Lovis will write his first painting, which attracted the attention of critics. Here his first international success awaited him with the painting, Conspiracy. The painting was awarded a bronze medal at the London Salon. The Antwerp studio also produced one of his most recognizable paintings, with the now intolerant name Othello the Negro, which depicts a portrait of a black man. In this city, he became acquainted with the paintings of Rubens, which he greatly admired. In October 1884, Corinth moved to Paris, where he entered the private Academy Julian and got his first experience with the female body. There he studied with William Adolphe Bouguereau and Tony Robert Fleury. He focused on improving his drawing skills and devoted much of his time to female figures. This period had a significant impact on the further work of the artist, including his passion for female portraits. A stay in Paris did not bring much success to Corinth. At that time, the works of the well-known Impressionists Gustave Courbet and Edouard Manet were popularized in Parisian galleries, but Corinth did not attract their work. He was inspired by the exhibitions of Jean-Louis Ernest Massenet, Wilhelm Liebel, and especially the retrospective of Jules Bastien Lepage. In 1890, the painting Pieta or Descent from the Cross declared at the Paris Salon, received an award. It was the artist's first real triumph. The painting did not survive to this day, as it was destroyed by the Nazis in 1945. Inspired by the success, the artist set about creating a mythological plot with Diogenes. It was not possible to repeat the triumph of the previous picture, and after that Corinth falls into despair, and even tries to commit suicide with the help of morphine. In 1891, Lovis decided to move again to Munich. Here he became interested in plein air art, popular at that time in Munich, when artists left their studios in search of subjects in the open air. Such painting was popular in Germany. But his paintings did not have the desired success and were widely criticized, causing Corinth to doubt himself again. The Descent from the Cross, 1895, was the first painting by Corinth to be truly sold. In the same year, she was presented at an exhibition in the Glass Palace and was awarded a gold medal. From 1895 to 1900, other works by Corinth were shown at exhibitions, which, however, did not make much of an impression on the public. Those 9 years in Munich were not his most productive, and he was perhaps better known for his ability to drink large quantities of red wine and champagne. Fortunately, colleague Otto Hickman is nearby. He brings the artist down to his senses with a recommendation to write something that will not leave indifferent either critics or ordinary art lovers. Fortunately, the ground for such an idea was sown a long time ago in the deep childhood of Lovis. Thus, in the early 1890s, the scandalous series on the slaughterhouse was born, which glorified Corinth and returned to him both the recognition of the public and the thirst to live and create. Gradually, he becomes a major figure in German art, one of the first to bring a fresh wind of impressionism into the ossified German painting. In 1896, Corinth became one of the co-founders of the existing and now Masonic Lodge, Strong by Loyalty, for which he painted the painting, Brothers of the Lodge, in 1898. This was followed by a whole series of successful and famous works. So, around 1896, Corinth painted his famous Portrait with a Skeleton. In 1897, Witches and The Temptation of Saint Anthony. In 1900, he painted Salome, which already in July of that year was the focus of the second exhibition of the Berlin Secession, and in Corinth's own words, he became a large figure in Berlin and began to receive his first orders for portraits. In autumn 1901, Lovis Corinth moved to Berlin and joined the Berlin Secession. In the same year, his painting, Perseus and Andromeda, was shown at the exhibition next to the canvases of Vincent van Gogh, Wilhelm Liebel, and Arnold Böcklin. On October 14, 1901, his art school was opened, and his first student was 21-year-old Charlotte Behrend, who became Corinth's permanent model. The school made a profit, and Corinth's paintings began to enjoy great success. In 1902, at the Secession exhibition, Corinth's works were presented along with paintings by Edouard Manet and Edvard Munch, and Hill's portrait was acquired by the Bremen Kunsthal. The Berlin Secession welcomes the artist with open arms. And over time, after the resignation of Max Liebermann in 1911, Corinth will completely lead this union of German figures who resist the stagnation of classical art. On March 26, 1903, Lovis Corinth married Charlotte Behrend. The young beauty of Jewish origin becomes a constant model, his assistant, inspirer and mother of his children Thomas and Wilhelmina. In 1906, Corinth began his first literary work, autobiography. In the same year, Corinth created a number of well-known and eye-catching works, such as Descent from the Cross, Childhood of Zeus, After the Bath, as well as Rudolf Rittner as Florian Geyer. In 1907, The Capture of Samson, The Great Torment, Self-Portrait with a Glass appeared, as well as The Reclining Nude, which caused much controversy. In 1910, Corinth donated the painting, Golgotha, for the altar of the church in Tapio, where he was born. But at the end of World War II, when the Red Army invaded East Prussia, this painting disappeared without a trace. Tapio was one of the few places in East Prussia not devastated by the war, so it is likely that the painting was looted rather than destroyed. In 1911, At the spring exhibition of the Secession, Corinth presented his painting, Nana, and 2 portraits of the poet Ferdinand Mayer. Here his works were located with paintings by Pablo Picasso and Ferdinand Hodler. At the very peak of his career, Corinth is paralyzed on the left side. This was the result of a stroke that happened to the artist. After that, he had violations with coordination and movements, and his hands were constantly trembling. With the help of his wife, within a year, he was able to recover a little and began to paint with his right hand. His disability aroused in the artist a keen interest in the simple, intimate things of everyday life. But his brush stroke becomes even sharper. The palette darkens significantly. The canvases practically lose their irony and love of life. He spent the spring of 1912 on vacation with his wife on the Riviera, and in the summer he wrote Blinded Samson. In 1914, Corinth traveled to Monte Carlo and Rome, where he was particularly attracted to the frescoes of Raphael in the Vatican. Then he went to St. Moritz, where he was caught by the First World War. Corinth, along with other famous personalities, welcomed the start of the war. Lovis Corinth declared his patriotic views, saw the war as an opportunity for a new beginning, which would allow German art to prove its worth. After the end of the war, the collapse of the empire, Corinth's faith in German painting was undermined. Since 1919, Lovis Corinth and his wife Charlotte Barron moved to their own house in the village of Erfeld on the Walchensee Lake, where he painted mainly landscapes, portraits, and still lifes. In his own words, so many works have never been sold as after the collapse of the country. The paintings were practically torn off the easel, and the exhibitions have never experienced such a heyday as they are now. On March 15, 1921, Lovis Corinth was awarded the title of Honorary Doctor of the Königsberg Albertina. In 1923, for the 65th anniversary of Corinth, the National Gallery organized an exhibition with the participation of 170 paintings by the artist. In 1925, Corinth became an honorary member of the Bavarian Academy of Arts. On June 16, 1925, Lovis Corinth travels to Dusseldorf and Amsterdam to once again look at the works of Frans Hals and Rembrandt. On July 17, 1925, Corinth died in Zandvoort near Amsterdam from pneumonia. His body was transported to Berlin and buried in the Southwest Cemetery in Stahnsdorf. In 1937, during the Third Reich, Corinth's work was condemned. The Nazi authorities removed 295 of his works from public collections and moved 7 of them to Munich, where in March 1937 they were exhibited at the Exhibition of Degenerate Art. Currently, part of the artist's paintings began to return to a relative of their real owners. So in 2007, the German city of Hanover returned the 1914 Roman landscape painting to the heirs of the Jewish collector Kurt Glaser, who sold it in 1933 to pay for his escape from the Nazis. In June 2021, the Royal Museums of Fine Arts in Brussels and Belgium agreed to return Corinth's 1913 Still Life with Flowers to the heir of Gustav and Emma Meyer, who were persecuted by the Nazis because of their Jewish heritage. With you was the Touch Art channel and the work of the German artist Lovis Corinth. Don't forget to subscribe to be in our community of like-minded people and art connoisseurs. Thank you.